Hello everybody, welcome to tonight's event. We've got a great talker, speaker tonight, Jason Gleaves. Quiet please! Hello, welcome to tonight's event. We've got a great speaker tonight, Jason Gleaves, but before we start, can you all turn your phones off please? I don't know if anyone's not been here before, but if you need the toilets, the bench is there, the ladies is there. Obviously if we have a fire, just make for the nearest exit, which hopefully we won't be doing that. But I think there's quite a few people I've seen before, but there's probably a few I haven't seen before. But if you haven't been before, welcome, and hope you enjoy it. Jason's been a friend of mine for a few years, and as you can see, he's got some fantastic models and things over there, which he makes himself. There are varying prices. I think some are quite a lot of money, and some are not so. But have a good look at them. He's got some great books as well that he's written himself as well. You can see, Jason will be doing his own introduction, but he's been around for a lot of years and he knows his stuff, and he's a fantastic speaker. So, Jason Gleaves.
Nice turnout tonight. We have a lot of volume on this, so we're having a bit of trouble, so you try and hear some of it. We'll just have to go through it the best we can.
Can you speak up a bit though?
Yeah, I can try, yeah.
We probably could have done with a microphone, couldn't we,
I'll try my best. As you can see, the talk tonight is disclosure, and basically what led to believe that everybody else, it's already happened, what I believe, where people have come forward to me and spoke to me, and etc. And I'll show you certain images and things that hopefully you can make your own mind up. Obviously, ufologist and author, and like I said, books over there I've wrote with Philip Mantle and stuff like that over the years. So let's carry on. I'm admin for UFO Only, which is the site there, and I'm a writer on the Outer Limits magazine and other publications. I've done a lot of documentaries that are on Amazon Prime and Apple and things like that. So yeah, it's quite an in-depth thing. I've served in the Air Force for 12 years and had a sighting which I'll explain to you, RAF Cosford. I worked for Airbus, building the Airbus aircraft that you've probably been on holiday, you know, built the wings and things like that for it. They're just some of the books I've wrote. There are more, and I do a lot of book covers for people, which you've probably bought over the years, you know, the ufology, etc. There's just some of the covers that I've done for people. That's not all of them, there's probably another 10 on top of there. And they range, you know, through everybody that you've probably seen. This is the last book I did, and this is quite close to my heart, this book. It was done with Calvin Parker on the Pascagoula incident, which happened in 73-74. And it was Charles Hickson and Calvin had an encounter. I'm sure you know about the case, it's well publicised, lots of books out. But this book took me over a year and a half, and I did it exactly with Calvin, and when I was Skyping with him backwards and forwards, and everything in the book, even down to the detail, is actually of what, right the way through what happened, his experiences, the abduction, what happened afterwards, where he was taken to the military base, and then his life afterwards as well. So it goes into there, and I've literally, within the last week, I've actually signed a contract for Ancient Aliens. They're going to be using it on one of their episodes, the Dr. Hynek episode coming up. I don't know when that's going to be around, so we'll be there for you. This image here, he was abducted and taken from docks in Pascagoula and taken on board by these beings here, which you can see. And he actually calls them the ugly ones. That's what the name he gave them. He was taken on board. Obviously, this is him lying on the table in the ship. But he had an interaction with a female ET on board the craft, and nobody's ever seen who she is, what she looked like. So I basically did like a police e-fit with him, and we were going backwards and forwards, saying the eyes right, the nose right, and eventually this is the figure we came up with, and she had long, elongated fingers and very odd looking feet, definitely female, and she basically did horrible things to him, stuck her hand down his throat and made his nose bleed, which I'm sure you can read up on documentaries and everything else done about this. But that's exactly how she looked. So no one's ever seen what she looked like, so that's what we aim to do, is get that across to people so they can see for themselves. So where did it begin for me? Obviously, like everybody else, like yourselves, you get into ufology and you start reading books. Maybe you have an experience or something, or there's a TV show in Star Wars, or depending on your age, that you would watch, and then you would actually, it would get you into it, get you the feel for ufology. So where did it begin for me? It was basically with my sister in Liverpool when I was 7 years old. We were playing in a house, which was my relative's house in Aintree, in Liverpool, and Aintree's famous area, the Grand National that everybody knows. And we were looking after the house while they went away on holiday. We were playing upstairs. My sister's 8 years old, so she's a year older than me. And we were playing away, and this is a depiction I did of what we saw outside the window. My sister said, "What's that outside the window?" And we looked, and there was a silver metallic disc-shaped craft hovering outside the window. We looked at this, and we're only young, we didn't know anything about UFOs or ufology. It was all nothing to us. And then this thing took off at high velocity, and we just carried on playing like nothing had happened. Didn't tell anybody, and until only maybe 2014-ish, when I started to get more into ufology and this side of it. My sister came forward and she said, "Do you remember when we saw that craft outside the window?" And slowly the memories started coming back to me. So we sat down together, and I said to her, "Can you draw me what shape was it we saw, so I could help me with the memories to come back?" And this is what we actually came up with. That was the best that we could come up with, the shape of it, which is your typical disc-shaped craft. So it was during the 1970s, and again, it sort of sparked. Then I started to read unexplained books, watch TV shows, and there weren't any around at the time. If you wanted a book, you went to the library to get your books. Charity to the Gods, things like that. You started to read. And then Arthur C. Clarke, do you remember the Mysterious World TV show he had out? You laugh, that's where we start. You start seeing the stories, the accounts, and then you think, oh, that's something similar to what happened to me, and that's how it grows, and it goes on from there. So within my family, I'm ex-military, and that side of it, my father was ex-military, and he wouldn't actually speak much about anything really like that. And one day he sat down and we were talking, I think we were having a drink together, and he said, "Oh, when I was young, I had a man in black experience." And my ears pricked up, and I was like, "You've got to tell me more about this. You didn't tell me anything about this before." And he said, "Yeah, it was about in the 1950s when he was a young boy in Liverpool, and he was playing in this house." This is the depiction I did with him, and this is what he saw coming through the front door. He was playing in the hallway, running backwards and forwards, and basically the grandparents were in the other room, no TVs at the time, just radio at the time, and he was backwards and forwards quite happily. The door was all locked up for the evening, and he said he come round the corner through the door, and this figure just actually manifested itself through the front door and was standing there. And as you can see there at the side, There's some stairs there, they go up. Obviously the figure there coming through the door, and that's my dad there. And this figure started beckoning to come up the stairs with him, which of course he didn't. He did an about turn and ran back into the front room to my grandparents, who just, he said, we've seen a figure outside the door, and they just poo-pooed it like they did for everything else, and it brushed under the carpet, and that was it. So odd things have happened for me, family members, and it's sort of grown and gone that way. So odd things have happened, many odd things have happened over the years. There's instances where I've been on military bases where there's been nuclear weapons involved, and we've gone into compounds. To go into the compounds, they're very secure, you can guess. You've got people on towers and everything else, and we went into the compound once, and when we came out there was an extra person with us, and no one knew how this person got with us or became part of the party. And of course he was on the ground with all the rifles in his face and everything else, and we were all ushered away. Another instance was in March 1993 when I was stationed at RAF Cosford. You've probably heard of this case. It's quite a famous case after Rendlesham or whatever you want to call it. And it was RAF Cosford, which is in the Midlands. RAF Cosford is a training camp, so they train armourers and communications people, etc. at this place. And it's full of young airmen. I was on the base that night. A good friend of mine was the orderly corporal in the guard room, and this was a typical guard night. We had the trainees on the different gates positioned throughout the base, and this is an actual picture here of the gate. That's the actual gate post, and it was crash gate number 2 that's the airfield behind. I'll show you another picture. And that was the guard post, and this young lad was in there on his own, pitch black, and if anyone's seen an airfield at night, it's pitch black, you can't see anything, it's just total blackness. And in the guard room, which was not far away, all of a sudden the radio cracked in, and this young airman was screaming down the radio, "Get the guard commander out here, get the guard commander out here, there's something over the airfield." Remember, this poor lad's only 18 years old, and he's on the gate on his own in the middle of nowhere, what feels like the middle of nowhere. Anyway, all the guard commander and the military police, RAF police, and other personnel got in the Land Rovers and everything, and actually drove out. And when they got there, basically there was a huge triangle-shaped craft over the airfield, right where this young airman was, obviously scared to death. Everyone saw this. It was all documented. You can actually see all this if you actually go onto the MOD records. They release it through Nick Pope and everybody else, because Nick came out the day after and was interviewing people. And this is the depiction. That's the real gate post there, with the real gate. You can actually visit. There's a museum at Cosford. You can actually go past this gate on the way in. You'll see it. That was the size, and the size of the craft that was seen. It was described to be the size of a battleship. It was huge. Black lights in the corner, and I've got a model over there which is very similar. I actually think it was a TR-3B, which is an anti-gravity craft, which is sort of to do with the secret covert side of the governments, whether it's part alien tech as well as ours, I don't know, but it was something odd, very silent. And the thing about this is the craft. This is another image. I took this image, it was the second time I've been posted to Cosford, and I took this image in 1987. And where I'm standing, where I'm taking this photograph, that's how far away the main guard post was to the airfield. So you drive under the railway bridge, and it's not changed at all, and it still hasn't changed to this day. The craft was actually seen and logged throughout the UK, and I say craft of similar description. Whether it was the same craft or other craft, I don't know, but it was seen on the same evening throughout the UK by on-duty policemen, etc., and members of the public. And it actually flew from RAF Cosford, which was here, to RAF Shawbury, which is literally about 20 miles as the crow flies across. And the on-duty air traffic controller who I've spoken to since, through a good friend of mine, Wing Keach, and basically he got a radar lock on the same craft that came over the base at Shawbury, and it was firing very, very thin laser pencil beams down towards the ground as if it was looking for something. That was the impression the air traffic controller got, which is, again, you know, it's a common theme that people have said they've seen. Again, Nick Pope, he came out day afterwards. He did work at the MOD, and he wasn't there that long, but this case he did actually cover and did interview people for it. And whether we can hear this now, I'll try and play it. This is an original bit of TV footage of an interview, which was probably a few years afterwards. I shall try.
An announcement is expected that our space scientists are to start scanning the cosmos for signs of extraterrestrial life. It's all part of a project funded by the Americans. Now, Nick, you work for the MOD, and for 3 years you worked for the MOD investigating alleged sightings. Yeah?
That's right.
What chances do you think our friends at Georgial Bank have of making a connection?
Oh, pretty good chances. I'm convinced we're not alone in the universe, and more than that, I'm convinced that, in fact, some extraterrestrial life is coming here already. So perhaps it's a question of, you know, we're looking for them at Georgial Bank, but they're looking for us down here.
You're convinced? Have you always been convinced?
No, not at all. I came into my job at the Ministry of Defence as a skeptic, but when I looked at some of the cases that have been reported, when I actually started investigating and researching this, I was absolutely amazed at what was out there. We've got visual sightings, for example, backed up by radar evidence. We've got RAF jets being scrambled.
Visual sightings of what? What were you seeing?
Oh, all sorts of things, but lots of...
Well, come on, all sorts of things.
Okay,
You know?
one good example, 30th of March 1993, a huge metallic diamond-shaped craft flies directly over two RAF bases in this country, RAF Cosford and RAF Shawbury. Lots of military witnesses, people describing this thing firing a beam of light down the ground.
Do we have footage of it?
Oh, unfortunately not, if only.
They do.
You know, I launched an investigation that went on for some weeks and ended up on the desks of defence ministers. At the end of the day, we simply had to say, don't know what it was, but it was faster than anything we've got, even on the drawing board, and more manoeuvrable.
And this was backed up by lots of military personnel,
Oh, yeah,
credible witnesses.
Absolutely.
Why was that not plastered over the papers? Why didn't we just see that everywhere?
Well,
Because that's phenomenal news.
Yeah, my job at the MOD was not at the time to necessarily go and start making public announcements. My job was simply to try and
You can't
investigate.
keep these things secret.
No, now I agree with you. Now, of course, I'm interested in getting cases like this out to the public so that people can see what's really going on in our airspace.
So as you can see, it's all there, you know, everything I've said that on my side and everything Nick has said. I think Nick gets a hard time sometimes, and he does sit on the fence a lot, but it's just the way it is, you know. Again, like I said before, with ufology, you have an experience or a sighting or anything related to ufology or phenomena related, and you feel like you're going mad. You think, you know, you just want to know more, and I call it the Richard Dreyfuss syndrome, which is the character out Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And I'm sure everyone's seen the film here. He just goes berserk after having the sighting on the level crossing, you know, in the film, and it just drives him nuts, literally nuts. And that's the way you feel sometimes. You want to read more, you want to watch more on TV, you want to research more or listen to other people that have had experiences, and you're not going mad. It's just part of your course to get there. This image is just an example of misidentification, which I get an awful lot from people, and it's nothing to do with their fault or their fault with obviously the camera. It's just it's either not focused. Cameras are different now; they've got much better. But we've all got one in a mobile phone. Now, I'm really talking about when we had the old 35mm cameras, and that's how we got our images across and etc. And that just gives you a basic insight there of different ranges. So if you've got your focus right on your camera, that's what you would pick up. If you've got it out of focus, see the blurred, how it becomes blurred and it becomes misidentification. And really that's how we do it. We have to narrow down everything related to UFOs, and what you're seeing. Because I always ask the same sort of thing. I'll always say, where's the nearest airport, military base, are people flying drones, you think, and anything else related, what was the weather conditions at the time, because you can get lenticular clouds that can look like UFOs. Everything's related to it. So once you've actually eliminated all these things, then you can start to look at it properly. This is just the electromagnetic spectrum, which is basically, as you can see there, I've highlighted, that's the human eye. We can only see in a very, very short wave band of the spectrum itself. So anything outside of that spectrum, out of it, you're talking microwaves and radio waves, X-rays, ultraviolet. We can't see those with the human eye. Quite often I get people that approach me or contact me and said, I've seen a UFO, I'm not sure what it is. When I took the photograph of maybe a scene or a family member and whatever behind, and he said, when I took the photograph, there was nothing there. But when they got back and they looked at their images, there's a UFO in the image, and it's like, how is that? Well, the camera can pick up the things that the human eye can't see, so it will capture it on film. And when you're talking outside in the frequencies of everything. So again, it's what we can actually see, and when you go back, the way I try to explain to people, if you look at yourself as like a radio, and there's thousands of radio waves and signals out there, and if you're tuned into the right signal, you'll pick up Radio 1 or whatever you're listening to, but you won't get any of the other frequencies. And that's the same thing with UFOs. But people have said that they've seen them and their frequency, and they're in on that frequency, and other people have stood next to them, can't see anything. So it's whether they want to see you. ETs exist, we know that, they're here. The craft are here. We've gone past the nuts and bolts, we're talking multi-dimensional, everything else related to it. So we've got to start thinking outside the box, bigger, of things we don't normally understand, and that's where the frequency side comes in. It's very, very important. And then also musicians, they seem to be coming forward, maybe famous musicians, Robbie Williams, or Kim Wilde, anybody, they're attuned to music, and it's a frequency thing, and everything is related to the frequency side of it. That's what I believe anyway. So this was actually taken from the Egyptian, it was a craft depicted, and it's on the back of a tapestry type thing that they had. But the thing that caught my eye when I actually started looking into it, there's the Sphinx here that's depicted on it, and that always came across as a UFO that had landed on the back. And it goes back to the old Mayan, everything else related. What they saw, they drew or they made. So a bit like us, if you make a documentary nowadays, it's very similar, or you write a book or do an illustration. So that is what is actually, I believe, is one depicted on the back of the Sphinx. And then it is highlighted a bit more, you can see there. It's got the 3 landing legs on the back. Again, I don't know, it's just something. And that's like an illustration of what it probably could have looked like at the time. These were taken from a private collection, let's say. And there's an awful lot of those, but people haven't got them in the public. And again, they're literally to Mexican Museum. And look at the objects there. These are objects that we see in the sky today. You've got your typical UFO orbs, disc-shaped craft, different types, and the elongated craft. Again, they made literally what they could see in the sky. This one's interesting. This is a Mayan artifact that's taken out of a private collection. And again, I don't know if you can see, it's obvious. It looks like an aircraft that you can see. You can see the windows, you've got the front there, you've got the forward cockpit, and then you've got the tapered fuselage, just like an aircraft, with the tail fin, same thing. Side windows, rear tail section, and whether it was an anti-gravity, which are these at the bottom, but then also you can see the swirls that have been depicted on the bottom, which probably show some sort of power source. Again, we don't know this, but you know, it's what I look at and put across. Another one found in Costa Rica. Again, everything else related, but look at these. You've got the old TR-3B triangular shaped craft, even with the 3 lights, and then there's if it's swirl in a way. Again, they made what they saw. This is a UFO image, and as long as I can remember in ufology, when you've read the magazines, the unexplained magazines, it'd be in there and everyone said it was a UFO. I like to look into things, I like to look at cases and then get right into the origins of that case. And again, we knew the number of that's the actual NASA number. This was supposed to have been taken by the Apollo astronauts on the way to the moon. Again, the information's there, so I just went into the archives and started to dig around, because I won't take no answer, I want to know myself. And as I got into deeper and tried to find this actual image had been erased, I couldn't find it. And whether somebody's giving you misidentification on the number itself. So I just started to look forwards and backwards over the archives, and I found it. I found the image. And basically, when I went in and analysed using filters, and I'll show you that now what I did, it was the actual 3rd stage of the rocket that had been jettisoned, and it was continuing with them to the moon, and it was tossing, obviously, as it was going with them to the moon. And as you can see, all I did is go, there's the actual image, the UFO image that everyone believes. Robert Dean actually said that it was a UFO. Again, I don't believe anybody until I've got in there myself. And that was the image. And this is the actual image here, so you can see. There's the number that I found, and there's the actual UFO. But when you go in and zoom in, it's the actual top of the rocket which being shone in the light. So again, debunked, or whatever you want to call it. More satisfying that you can find out what it is. But then I just overlaid the two and it came out as a perfect image. So that was one debunked. This is another one I debunked on myself, whether people still believe or not. Is the Solway first spaceman, again publicised in all the UFO magazines as an original spaceman. A lot of theories out there to do with other related missile sightings, etc. And if you look at it, and you in your own mind, you can actually come up and say, yeah, that is a spaceman. It looks like a spaceman behind. Everything else is there. Your mind's set up to believe it is because you're told it's a spaceman. Again, I didn't want to believe that, so I went in, started digging around, and there are actually more images. This isn't the only image that was released at the time. So again, I did all the usual, where's the sunlight coming from, everything else related, does it relate to the image, to make sure that is an actual image behind You can see the light shining on the hair there. Everything else is related to it. So I started to add filters. And as you add filters, it comes out different. And it looks like you see arms there, and it's sort of open like a tank top type dress in the back of the head. And again, just went in, start to analyse it again. And again, there's a close-up of it there. And Jim Templeton, who was the guy who actually released it, if you actually go into the case itself, he was known in the area for being a bit of a prankster, a bit of a joker, and he'd be the first to pull wool over your eyes, etc. And this was the camera he used at the time. Now the camera he used was the old-fashioned type of 35mm, but there's no viewfinder. So when you took a photograph, you literally pointed at what you wanted to take a photograph of and hoped for the best that it turned out that it was going to be what it is. When he took the photograph there of his daughter, he was kneeling down. So he held the camera above his head to take a photograph of her, and he caught a figure in the back, which he admitted he never saw a figure behind, and I believe him because he didn't see it. He was kneeling down in front taking the photograph with the camera above his head. And then this is no viewfinder, like you said, so you just take the photograph. And as it come through, it was basically his wife. Because if you look at these other images, there's another image of the same exact same spot, same time, etc. And that's his wife. At the side, you see the dress with the arms and the short arms, and she'd been behind. So it was all blown out of proportion, these things were at the time. It was a good story, and it just got bigger and bigger, and I think he went along with it. So again, it's just another case that I don't believe anybody. I've got to get in there and look for myself. It's just me. This case was brought to me by Philip Mantle, and I actually put it in the first book. And it was taken of, obviously you can see the object. There was a building here, and this was a flagpole with a flag, and it was a pilot that was on vacation in the UK, and he'd actually caught those two UFOs, which you look at them and you do think, yeah, of course, again, but I don't go down that road, you know. I was going to go one step further. So when I went in and analysed, that's another aircraft. If you go in, you can see the distortion you get with images when you break them down, which is all an important part of ufology. You've got to get through all this before you can start answering any other questions. And that's of a jet, and that's what you get, obviously, from a distance away. So I went into more detail of the actual image, and this is what I got. There's the first UFO, that's the second UFO. It's basically, again, two fighter aircraft that were flying. There's the wings there, the tailplane, fuselage. That's an example, these of what I think is a plane flying away. But again, this is an experienced pilot, airline pilot, who thought he had a UFO. He's not lying or anything. He's not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. He had an experience. And he literally, that's what he came back with. So I put it in there. It's just to prove that I actually go down the road of trying to investigate the cases. This, I still believe this is one of the best pieces of footage out there for UFOs. I was approached in 2014 by an Argentinian pilot. He didn't want his name brought forward or anything like that, which most people don't, because it's their livelihood, business, etc. He was an experienced pilot. He'd been flying in his aircraft, which was a single prop, which was same as this one here. And he'd seen UFOs, but he never had a camera or anything with him to documentate it, or whatever you want to call it. And he knew he was going to see more. So it was in the early stages of 2014 when we had camera phones, etc. You'll see the image and the footage I'm going to show you. It's sort of in a long version because that's the way it was taken on his phone. And again, he did capture these craft coming in. I'm trying to go over them. So that was his plane flying along. He was buzzed by 2 UFOs twice, which you'll see for yourself. He was doing about 10,000 feet when they came in from the port side. That's the clip of the first UFO, which went right in front of his aircraft. And you'll see the second one that came through. Then he went to the right hand side of his aircraft, starboard, and started to fly in a figure of 8. And then they came back together, again buzzed his aircraft again, which went straight across. There's the 2 coming back. You can see the prop of his aircraft there. You'll see it for yourself. And it's been used all over the world, this footage. He's allowed me to do it, but his name's been held back, obviously. It was on Paranormal Court. You can see all this if you want to go and see it, but it's on my YouTube channel if you want to see it anyway. And it's been used by Japanese TV. I think the latest people use it with the Osbournes, like they've got experience in UFOs or whatever, but yeah. So you'll see it's going to be in that form. I apologise for that, but that was the way it was actually taken. And you'll see the UFO come across, buzz, go back, 2 aircraft, 2 UFOs come across, 1 large elongated craft followed by a smaller craft. Then they go in the figure of 8 and then come back again, you'll see. And then I actually zoom in and you'll see slow motion of it and things like that. And we have actually analysed it and you'll see for yourself. There's the first one that went past, buzzed him, and then the second one. So you go there, going at high velocity. Now they're doing a figure of 8 to the right. He's still flying his aircraft while watching these happen. And you'll see them both come back in formation. And then they go right in front of him again. Civilian aircraft don't do this. The military doing it, such a dangerous manoeuvre for anyone to do this. Again, you'll see I'll slow it down. That was a large, elongated craft. And then again, you'll see the smaller. You've got to remember this is 2014, so the cameras were not that good really on your phone. It's the best we've got. Then we'll show you again, where I actually analyse the images and use filters. probably heard it more and more. We're getting more of the wind turbines that have been put up everywhere. Again, they've been around for a good while, but there are cases where people have said that UFOs and orbs, etc., have hit turbines and took them out. This was one in Louth in Lincolnshire. I remember this in the papers, and somebody had witnessed that it was hit by a UFO. And again, there are other where people have seen orbs around and actually taken images of them round. I don't know why they want to be round actual wind turbines, but it is part of us and what we have. This was an interesting one because it was taken in Poland, and it's actual footage. And this orb, as you can see there, these are frames taken from, you'll see the footage in a minute. But you can see the UFO orb, whatever you want to call it, which is here. And that was the actual size of the car in size, you know, to give you an example. And it actually comes through, and as it came through, it actually stops the wind turbine as it passes through, and then carries on, and the wind turbines start again afterwards. So you'll see that. Here's an example: the average car 6 feet across, and this thing was that size. The average width or diameter of a wind turbine, just to give you an example, is 40 metres across. They're not little things. You ever stood underneath one? They're quite big. So this was the actual footage, 2016, and you'll see the orb come across here, and as it comes across, this turbine's turning here, and you'll see the turbine stop, and you'll see the orb pass underneath, and then you'll see again the turbine carry on afterwards. Again, I'll zoom in, you'll see in more detail. So watch the turbine stop. Passes through, clear of the blades, and you'll see the turbine start again. And remember, that's the size of a car. More and more people are coming forward saying they're seeing orbs, etc., from all around the world. You see it pass behind. Use different filters again, just so you can see. See the erratic flag movements on it as well. So again, it's interesting, and again, more and more people are actually seeing this type of UFO. It goes through different decades. People see in the 80s, they see triangular shaped craft, the old TR-3B, etc. And people are seeing elongated. People have always seen disc-shaped craft, etc. So this is just part of the modern day. What people are saying, they're seeing a lot of orbs, etc. People seeing drones. Whether they are drones or not, again, it's a different thing. So this is, it's called the Levitron. Actually, I have one of these. Hours of fun with it, and it was actually invented to prove. Well, I was just explaining there where you could see the craft. It was actually this sort of motion, and what it is, it's riding on the electromagnetic fields of the Earth. And they say that people have had experiences, etc., where they were told that the craft used the fields to actually stay afloat with the anti-gravity, etc. Again, it's all linked. But this was actually made as a scientific experiment at the time, and it explains in really good detail, and it shows you how the craft do what they do. So again, it's all done on magnets underneath here with a metal thing. You raise it up above and it rides on the magnetic. You see it hovering, and you see that it's actually bouncing, and it's using the magnetic fields to stay up. And that's exactly the same as what the craft do. So here it is again, showing you, and then a lot of people talk about Billy Meyer and his sightings, and I believe everything that I've seen. I've tried to look into all his UFO pictures, footage, etc. And I really do believe it, but there are a lot of skeptics out there, and that's fine. There's no problem with that at all. But I've used one of the sightings of the craft that he used, which he filmed himself, but it's a good way of showing you a craft that's actually riding on the magnetic field of the Earth. So you'll see there's the Levitron, you'll see him bring it up, you'll see it bounce on the magnets, so you've got that motion, and then now you'll see the actual flight characteristics of a real UFO. So there's a real UFO filmed by Billy Meyer in Switzerland, and the craft is doing exactly the same thing. It's actually riding on the magnetic, and he was told that by the ETs he was interacting with, how the craft. You see the way it's got that easing. It looks uncontrolled, but it is controlled. Again, I've just explained, more people coming forward with saying they're seeing orbs and having interactions. I mean, orbs come in many colours, shapes, and within orbs people are seeing, again, they're seeing facial features and other things, and I'll show you some really good images now. As you can see inside, people are saying, putting it down to spiritual, religion and everything else, ghosts. I believe they're all linked. It's all linked together with frequency again. And as you can see, there are many colours again people have seen. This was one image that was taken at the Essex Ranch, which is in Mount Adams in the US. James Gilliland, his ranch, I actually gave a talk there via Skype one year, and everybody goes to this ranch. You've seen it, or famous people go there because you always see a craft. You don't need to go to these places, you can go outside and see a craft yourself. But as you can see, these are orbs that were captured, and again you can see, you can see here, you can actually see heads of whether they're ETs, whatever. Sometimes you can rig your mind up to see what you want to see, but there's facial features in there. And again, I believe it's part of the multi-dimensional thing where we've got to look above nuts and bolts, and I believe that's the way that they travel. It's just a different dimension that bleeds through, and that's why you see orbs. But again, that's just my theory. This is Peter, and I'll explain about Peter Slattery, and he runs the Essex Ranch, which is part in Australia. Pete, he started many years coming out. He used to be a rapper, so again it's the music thing again, which I said before. And he would go on national TV and he'd come out just like David Icke did, and was always poo-pooed and said you're a nutcase and tinfoil hat and everything else related. As we know, it's not that nowadays. But Pete, I put him in the top 1% in the world of sightings, and I'll show you some of the things. And he sends me a lot. I've done an awful lot of analysing of things for him. If you go on eseti.org, you can see everything I've done. You don't hold back anything. They show everything, all the sightings that you see, the orbs coming in, and you'll see where the orbs power up. Where you ever see where people film the orbs coming over, and then they're having an interaction, C5 interaction, where the actual orb will power up and it's having an interaction with you. It's all part of it again. And they'll only show themselves if you're open to it. But this was one he sent me, and he said he was in his house. I can remember speaking to him, and he said, I've just heard the footprints going over the roof. Literally, and he said, I've got to go outside and film it, because I joke saying he sleeps with his camera, literally, because he's got all kinds of, you know. And as you can see, that's the original photograph. He went outside. What can you see there? I'll show you in a minute. Anyway, that's his truck parked outside, and these are some outbuildings. So we went into more detail. I circled it there. There was a small grey outside that had just gone over the house, and he'd had a lot of interactions with the greys, Palladians, etc. And again, I'll show you images. As I zoomed in and used the filters, you can blatantly see this little guy there with his elongated eyes, the same, and he'd been there, and he obviously wanted to be seen. So just zoomed again, different filters again, and this is the same being that he had in his house. Literally, I'll show you again. He set up a stop motion camera in the dead of night, and you'll see a grey, the same grey alien or type of being, and I actually overlaid stock images of both, and it's the same type of being, so it's all related. Another funny thing, it goes back to E.T., the ex-E.T. Movie we all watched as a kid. You ever see the scene when he's in the fridge and he's eating all the milk and the cheese and everything? That's real. They actually like dairy products. And he said in his house he was always blaming his kids. When he'd go to the fridge, the milk and the cheese had all been eaten, and go back, and they were adamant they hadn't eaten the cheese and the milk and what have you. And what it is, they go in, they raid his fridge. So that's where Spielberg sort of got his ideas, I think, along that line. There again is another filter. This is the stock footage of the similar type. That's just a picture on there. But you'll see, and I'll have to explain it because it is hard to see, and you'll see it with the filters. You'll see the being where there's a wall here, and I'll point to it. And you'll see the being actually pop its head round like that and pop back, and does it twice. And you'll see it blink its eyes as well. I'll try and explain to you the setup. It's set up in this hallway. There's the hallway, that's the thing you get, it's like a bookcase. This wall here leads off into the kitchen, and that's where the being here, you see it just there, pop its head out. It's difficult to see it first, but when the filters are on, you'll see it better. So you can see it there, see the head? Just see it there. see, but again, it's just another example. This was taken at a C5 meeting without interacting, and again, it's where the orbs they manifest themselves into what the ETs are seeing. So again, this was the being that manifested itself, and it's got very exactly. I put this on because I thought it actually did look like cat-like in appearance. Again, it's a different type of being that people have interactions with. It's just one of many on a C5. If you ever get a chance to go on a C5, you know, I would grab it the chance. You do it in your back garden, you don't need to be in a field somewhere. There's another one in Mexico City, and this being again manifested itself out of orbs literally together. And I know Stephen Greer had done one where again the being had come in the same and manifested itself through the orbs. You all know Paul Sinclair, good friend. This is how I came across Paul many years ago, because I was analysing images for people, etc. And he said that again he set up a stop motion camera in his house. He'd been having a lot of weird things happen, noises, bangs, etc. And this is what he caught on the camera. So there's this hallway there, you can see the picture on the wall, and there was a being or something that came in. There's the eyes at the head, and obviously inverted on the camera. He couldn't get his head round it, hold like that. He's so level-headed, it's unbelievable. Again, there's a close-up of the being. Here we seem to have the elongated eyes, the greys, etc. But there's so many different races of grey out there. We don't know. The last count was 84, something like that. Again, there was a light that was caught on the camera. But the interesting thing about this light, very, very bright source of light, came in and it actually went through the wall. But see, the light switch is behind the light. As it went, it passed through the wall itself. Again, Paul couldn't explain it, and I couldn't really explain it. I just said, yeah, you've got something weird going on there, and that was it. Again there, but you can see again there, look, behind the light switch on the wall. That's not even illuminated, so that was like a spotlight on the wall or something. You illuminate part of the actual light switches for itself. This is another contactee, Maria Kayali. Some great things, you know, you ever get a chance to watch. She doesn't really go public anymore, but things that have happened to her. And again, she filmed this craft. That's the actual craft that appeared in a window outside, came in, and she knew she was going to be taken on board the craft. And this was the being. She took these inside. She had a phone with her. She actually took that inside the craft. Again, we're going back to the orbs. And as it comes across, whether it's dimensional or whatever, I really don't know. But they're always fascinating to see. This is an image that really grabbed me. And again, it was one that I wanted to look into more. And there is always more to these images than actually first meets the eye. This was a lady that was sat on a porch in the US. There's a truck outside, obviously low, it's night time. And this little fella sort of manifested itself right in front of her. She caught it on a camera. But again, I wanted to see, there's always more to these things. So when I thought, she faked that as whatever. I always think in my head, is it a fake? Is it real? So I went in and started using filters. Filters are great for bringing out detail that you can't see. And there's the image there of this little fella on the porch. But look behind what's outside. There's beings outside. Literally in this area here, and this area here, behind this. There's the actual being or whatever. And again, this goes back to people having experiences where beings manifest things to you that they want you to see and not them. So again, there's cases, Robert Hulse always came out with a really good case where as a child he said the door would open at night and he said a giraffe would walk in the room or an elephant, and it's like what they want you to see to put you at ease. Again, I don't know whether this is similar, but there you can actually see the faces behind in the darkness. So again, it's just one of those interesting images that are not what you actually see or believe at the time. That's James Gilliland and that's Peter Slattery at the Settee Ranch. And again, it's literally a UFO hotspot. You've got Mount Shasta, all places, Mount Adams. There's just so many, and everyone goes to this place and they spend weeks there. Literally, Danny Dyer did a TV show where he went and he was all, oh, I don't believe in UFOs, etc. And he went and he saw about 10 UFOs. So, literally, it'll open your eyes, and the stuff he's got, it's all, he doesn't hide anything, which is great. It's all on par.
I like the logo.
Yeah, I like the logo they have, yeah. Great guys, but so level-headed. This was Pete Slattery again, and he was staying in one of the cabins, and he's had interactions, as you saw, with the grey before, and etc. This is a being, very oriental-looking being. Her name's Guan Yin, and she's had interactions with him for years. And he said he woke up. This is the image. Like I said, he sleeps with his camera. So that he literally got his camera and he took this image. And you can see here, there's the wardrobe in the back. There's the bed. It's slightly distorted because things go distorted sometimes when he has interactions. But again, there's the being. And so what? I can remember him sending me the image, and I said, look, go back and take a photograph exactly where you took that photograph from. So what he did, he went back on the bed, which is there, and there you can see in the background, there's the wardrobe, everything fits, there's the beam there, everything is exactly the same, and I just overlaid it, so it's just proof again really of what's there. You can see where I've actually overlaid the two, just again, I'm not calling him a liar, but I want to know myself. I want to know 100% that happened, and I believe, like I said, I put him in the top 1% of things, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. These are just some of the craft that he's filmed and pictured. Again, all there for you to see, and I've actually analysed them, and he sees craft of every description, size, shape, and they all show up for him. And again, look at there's some really weird looking, there's some that are a bit more that you would think, the UFO types. And that one there, like the Mad Hatter hat, isn't it? Again, there's an orb shape. Again, when you use filters and go into it, you can actually see the detail and the structure. There's another one he took in Australia, the same. He's literally out all the time looking. And again, you can see what I've actually zoomed in. Look at the detail in the craft there, you can see the aura around the craft. The light at the front. It's nothing we've got, or nothing in our arsenal or aviation. It's got no wings, no propellers, not helicopter, there's no strobe lights on it, there's no landing gear. And there it is again with different filters. I always use the filters literally just so I can prove that it's there and it's a structure. This is Mount Adams. Again, they film it, you can see it from the ranch. But they all believe, and I believe, that there's an actual base within the mountain, because they're filming craft that actually leave the mountain. I'll show you now. There's one that was taken above, literally above the mountain there, and then there's one here you'll see where the craft leaves the mountain at high velocity. You can see it come out of somewhere around here, literally out, and it shoots up into the sky. You'll see that same view. You'll see the craft that they just depict. So the people with the see the craft take off, they come on the mountain. There. There's nothing on that mountain at all. It's just nothing at all, just wildlife. And you can see when it comes out of here, then it goes at high velocity, leaving. Well, just to give you a comparison again. Again, I've gone over cases again, and I've done in one of the books I actually analysed the old famous case, Battle over Los Angeles, 1942, just before the Americans came into the Second World War, and still think this was part of them coming in. And it was of the craft that was over Los Angeles. They fired shells at this thing coming over. People were killed, actually, because shells fell on people in the houses, and they were firing at this thing all night. You can see there that the strobe lights were on it. That's the actual photograph, and you can see the shells exploding around, because they literally bombarded this thing and it didn't move. It stayed there all night, came in and then left. So again, me doing an analysis type of thing, I wanted to see what this thing looked like. No one ever knew what it looked like, and that's what I always want to do, because I come from nuts and bolts, building aircraft, etc. So my idea is, that thing's got to be real. But then, as time's gone on, I've thought more dimensional and things like that. Like, mind's opened up. So there you go. That's what it is. Using filters of exactly the original photograph. You can see there, and it's illuminated because all the spotlights were on it at night, and that's what it looks like underneath. So again, whether it was a hot air balloon, I've never known a hot air balloon to stay up for hours and be shot at. Yeah. Again, there it is. So I've overlaid and just put in to prove. There you see the shells, the craft, and that's what was there that night. But it's a famous case during 1942 over Los Angeles, and the Americans at the time, they actually thought it was the Germans and the Japanese, and it was part of, and sort of introduced them to the Second World War. There it is again in all its glory. It's nothing I've ever seen before. I don't know about yourselves. Okay, I think David wants a break there.
Yeah, we'll have a coffee break.
Yeah.
Well, I must say that if you haven't had your mind blown by that, nothing's going to be. And don't forget as a whole. Well, I must say that if you haven't had your mind blown by that, nothing's going to be. And don't forget as a whole.
Put my glasses back on and blind at the back. Right, so where we left off, 1942 UFO, so that's what it looked like. Again, people haven't seen what it looked like, they've only seen the original images, so again, it's me digging deep and doing it that way. This was another one that fascinated me, really, and to do with portals. So people talk about portals with UFOs and the way they come into our realm, again, dimensional, in and out. And this was actually in Lanzarote. Somebody took a series of photographs actually, which makes it more intriguing really. Again, it was like a bell shape, but the thing about this sighting is, they had a camera obviously, and they got them, but they actually saw this craft coming through a portal, and it left through the same portal. So again, I'll show you that. But again, whether you believe it or not, I'm just putting across what I So that was the object itself, the UFO there captured. But when I actually went in and analysed the image, we captured the occupants inside the craft, so you can see. And again, this had a little bell-shaped craft that was coming off underneath. Again, I think in relation to real UFOs, real extraterrestrials, they have sort of drones that they send out. They don't do the work themselves, they'll send a drone to probably see the terrain, the dangers around and everything else related. So I think this is probably part of that. But again, interesting to see the occupants in board, but that's only because you use the filters. This here is again the same craft. There's the dome. See the top of it where it's actually lit. Again, this is to do with the analysis side of it when I go into it. Above you can see the portal that they said it came through, which is there. And other people, when I first look, I thought that's the sun. That's the sun that's caught in the image. But it's not, because if you go in, they said that's where it came from, so you take their word for it. The craft in and out. But look at the dome here. The dome, there's the metallic dome. See where the sun is actually coming from this direction? So the sun was up here. It wasn't near and it wasn't in the photograph. So again, it's just one thing that cements towards what they're saying. This is the same dome as it went across, it flew on its side, and you can see the bottom of the dome, which is the dome on the top, as it flipped over, and you can see there again. On the actual photograph, it doesn't really show a lot, but when you use the filters, it shows again so much more detail that we can't normally see. This is probably going back to 2019. This was a military exercise, and again it's pilots, and he said they were followed by, again, this was way before they come out with the official Tic Tac UFO that everybody's seen and gone along with. And this is the pilot, he took it, you can see the reflection there in the cockpit as he's looking out. But there, following them, was this Tic Tac show UFO. Nothing to do with them. That's I think it was a Russian aircraft, and it was an English Typhoon, so it was all part of the exercise. Again, this is the original Tic Tac UFO that was given out. Little alarm bells, with myself being ex-military and the terms used. Again, I don't think it is extraterrestrial. I think it's one of ours. It's just something that's way far in advance of what we've got. But again, they're always interesting, and these were only seen because of the new equipment installed on the aircraft that can show infrared. And again, that goes back to the frequency that you can't see. The pilot said they couldn't see most of the time the craft, but the new equipment brought this up. And again, there they are, you can see. But they were just flying and giving the characteristics of something that we don't have. So on the actual footage, the little alarm bell with myself, and again, it may be being petty, I don't know. On the side of the readout, you can see all the height, altitude, everything, and then there's the UFO, everything else. The word slave is actually wrote. Now the word slave in military terms means drone. Now I don't know, it was just one little thing that always in the back of my mind. Was it, wasn't it? I don't know, but it's just something to highlight to you. Right, did we actually go to the moon, and if we did, what did we find there? Interesting, always interesting to everybody and myself, and I've looked at so many images. And these images I'm showing you now are just the tip of the iceberg. I've got thousands in archives, and it's very hard to pick what to show you. So I'll try and go into detail in that respect. This was the lunar, I can't remember which Apollo mission it was, but it was that was the image, and that was the limb. That was the actual craft that landed on the moon with the astronauts, and then it came back up to to actually the returning Apollo mission that's circling around when they come back to the Earth. Well, this was the one that captured it coming back from the moon. In the back, these all look like craters on the moon. Me again, I didn't believe what I was seeing there. If you go into detail and put filters on, they're domes. They're domes on the moon surface. There. And as you can see now, there's the dome. See the domes and the structures within inside? And they manipulate these images that you see and you don't take any notice, but people like me do. I tend to look. But as you can see blatantly, domes. And they're huge. Huge domes. Again, this is a picture of the far side of the moon. You don't see this normally. We see one side because the moon stays in orbit. Doesn't move, doesn't, as it goes around the Earth. Again, I saw this and I thought, no, there's more to that than meets the eye. Again. Look at this bit down here, the bottom where the arrow is. So you can see there, this bit here. You can see the moon in all its glory and you think, oh yeah, that's a great image. Look what I found. Orbiting the far side of the moon. So that's a huge station. So whether that's the space fleet that's there, that Gary McKinn came up with years ago and said that he found, he hacked into the US government files. Definitely there, and that thing's huge. And there's craft coming off it. All there on the far side of the moon. There you go. Using the filters. Again, you can see there, there's some sort of structure to it. Obviously craft all around. And that was actually taken by Apollo 16. This one always intrigued me, and this has been removed, this footage now. And this was Apollo 12, I think it was, and this was actually landing on the moon. So when it's coming in, I'll show you the footage. When I watched it, I thought, what's that? And you can see there's like a tunnel or shaft. See the 3 dots there? You can see the lights, and it's not lit up, and there's actually something here. Right, so what you'll see now is the actual footage as they're coming in to land on the moon. Everybody is looking at the moon landings, that's all they can see, but I'm looking what's around. So you'll see now, and you'll hear the astronauts as well as they're going in. And when you see it, you can't unsee it.
300 feet coming down at 5. I said, right, that crater right where it's supposed to be. You're beautiful. 10%. 257 feet coming down at 5. 240 coming down at 5. Hey, you're really maneuvering around. Yeah. Come on down, Pete. Okay. 10% fuel. 200 feet coming down at 3. Need to come on down. Okay.
Like some sort of shaft going down, something here.
190 feet. Come on down, 180 feet. 9%, you're looking good. Gonna get some dust before long. 130, 190 feet.
Can you see it?
Come on down, 180 feet. 9%, you're looking good.
There's something here as well, standing in front.
Gonna get some dust before long. 130 feet, 124 feet, Pete.
So out of place there, it's like, wow. And then this object standing in front of it. See it? We always choose to land at these places for a reason, and again we'll have to know.
Come on down, Judy. Okay. 10% fuel. 200 feet. Coming down at 3.
This
Come on
footage
down.
was
Okay.
removed as well, not long after.
They're 90 feet. Come on down. 180 feet. 9%. You're looking good. Gonna get some dust before long. 130. They're 90 feet.
There you go. Again, this is another Apollo 14 landing on the moon. Again, this footage wasn't up for long. Lucky for me, I record everything. And again, it's an elongated craft, but you can hear the actual astronauts actually say, what's that object on the horizon. So again, I'll get into that. Apollo 14. When you use the filters and you'll see, it's so out of place, it's unbelievable, but again, it's...
The flag being positioned about 20 feet from Antares. Look okay? Roger, that's a good... No? Go ahead, Ed. Okay. How's your picture now? Roger, it looks good. Okay, we're back in. Because you won't be able to see it.
You know that it's there.
Now, another picture to the right. Roger. Anything almost done. Roger, we got your shadow. The rocks are brighter in the view. Okay. What's that object in profile on the horizon? Roger. Anything almost
You know
done.
these things are there.
Roger, we got your shadow. The rocks are brighter in the view. Okay. What's that object in profile on the horizon?
So again, use filters and everything else, and they manipulate images and footage, so you see the structure to it. It's not part of the horizon at all.
What's that object in profile on the horizon?
Okay, this is another image that was taken, the two Voyager satellites that have gone into our entire solar system and now left. And this is when they passed Saturn, and Saturn's, obviously there's a lot of things going back about Saturn and the rings, and they captured the object. I don't know what it is, but it was actually within the rings itself as they passed. So again, it's another thing that's out there. This is the International Space Station. This was actually brought to my attention through Steve Merritt, who first brought it up and said, what was that object there? This is the Atlantis space shuttle just about to dock with the space station, and they captured this object here above. And again, there's the object. Again, not one of ours, but it could be part of the space fleet, I don't know, or just a UFO. But again, you can see it, there's the actual footage detail, and it's about docking. You can see camera flare here and stuff. That's just naturally part of the image, because the sun is over here. But there it is again. Again, just to give you, with the filters involved, you get a better idea. This is the Chinese Chang 3 lunar rover, and the Chinese got involved, landed on the far side of the moon. And the Chinese don't hide stuff either, they like to get out what they, just to rub their noses in NASA and things like that. Anyway, this thing was on there, and it took a pan vision. You'll see again the image it took right out, very innocent. But what's that on the horizon? It caught there. Again, I don't look at just what they're taking that image for a reason. Again, so I zoom in, use the filters, and there you go. There's something there. There's actually whether it's inhabitants of it. It's a landed craft watching the rover. This was, you can go on this site and they actually take images of sun flares and things off the sun, and it's just a solar image that was taken as part of the tool. But when I actually analyse this one looks like something. Again, people have said that the sun is a gateway. It's used to go through different solar systems, different dimensions, etc. Again, I don't know, but you know, that certainly to me, it's got structure to that. It's not just the sun flare, and that just come out of the sun itself, and that's huge in size. This one is an interesting one. Again, it was taken from, it's a 16 frame sequence which was taken from the Space Science Engineering Centre, and it's a geostationary satellite image around the Earth, and it's for weather and everything else related, and they've actually taken in fragments, and you'll see again in the video, but they caught this huge, this was hundreds of miles in size. It was there for a while. Again, experiencers and everybody else involved have said that the craft are coming and they're going and they're in our orbit around the Earth, etc. So you'll see on the footage, you'll see where it actually picks it up. At the top there's a timer and where it's taken from. Up here, you'll see it. They're picking these things up all the time. So there it is, you see it came on. And it's on a very short timer up there. See the timer going, so that was a 15-minute section, and that's what it picked up. It does it in sections, that's why it looks like that, because it's actually done in 16 segments, I think. So again, something else there that's not being brought out to the public.
Is that what they call a portal?
The ship, that was a ship.
Oh, it was a ship.
Yeah, that was a mothership. So that was hundreds of miles in size. It was huge. So over compared to where the satellite was itself. Again, we go back to when we found the matches. So the nuclear weapons started in Mexico, New Mexico. That's when the ETs started taking a real interest in us, because we're playing with matches, we don't know what we're playing with. Again, so I started looking into this side of it, and New Mexico, and the detonations for the nuclear weapons, and I managed to get the first milliseconds of a nuclear bomb that's actually being detonated. And you can see the blast. I'll show you now. You see the blast coming out. There's the blast. That's what it looks like just before it comes out, expands, goes into the mushroom cloud, and you get the blasts in and out. Again here, again we go back to, I have to look what else is in the picture. Look on the ground there. And this is within the first millisecond of a nuclear blast, so it happens so quickly. You go down on the ground, I zoomed in to the ground. See there? There's a craft on the ground, actually watching. See it there? And I've just put that in comparison, whether it's the same, but it's very similar shaped craft. And they can take a nuclear blast. That's how the shields or whatever they've got, so they can take it direct. This piece of this piece of footage is more important than you think, because I remember it coming out a couple of years ago now, and it's 3 Typhoon jets. It was taken, I don't know if it was round here or not, this area of the UK. Anyway, the 3 jets, you can see them, they're high up in the ground. This person has taken the footage, and you can see the afterburners of each jet, because I know what to look for. And you'll see the one jet gives up the ghost and they're following a UFO, and then you'll see the other two jets continue with the afterburners, and you'll see them giving up, and you'll see it just stop dead. So you'll see for yourself, and then you'll see the UFO. There's the three, and they've just gone into afterburners there, and they're following the UFO, which is up here. You'll see in a minute. That one's giving up the ghost, that jet. But those two are still following it. Full afterburners. There we go. And there's the UFO. They're actually following. And that is actually going the same speed as they're actually flying, which is probably in excess of thousands of miles an hour. And that UFO has got no vapor behind it, anything at all. It's continuing to stay ahead. Probably toying with them. And then you'll see eventually these two give up because they realise they can't keep up, and there's the UFO ahead. Just there. You see one actually stop, and the other one continues, then realises the UFO's gone. Which is the triangle shaped craft, similar to the Cosford thing I was telling you about. Again, this person took the footage in 1998, this was, and you can see the craft. When I actually analyse it, you'll see it actually going up and down, spiralling. I always found it fascinating. So you can see the craft. And this was over a military base, which was here. So again, it's linked. And then you can see it's not a typical type of conventional aircraft. If I had to say, I would say it was one of ours. Again, advanced tech, but you can see the triangle shape there. See other things within the cloud, obviously the ground, which is always great for perspective because you can put where the aircraft is or the object is in comparison to size and dimension, distance, see on the ground, and so it's an important piece of footage. there you go. That's my talk, and I could have shown you an awful lot more, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. And basically I told you so. And there's some of the books again. So thank you for listening. Yeah, if anyone would like to ask any questions, I'll try to answer them. So.
Questions, anyone?
I'm glad you're a believer
Right at
in
the
Billy
back.
Meyer, as I am as well. What do you think about the Georgia Gatsby photographs?
Some of them I think are. Again, I'm not trying to sit on the fence with this, but it's the Volusians, isn't it? He had contact with.
Yeah.
Again, it's somebody coming out and just saying I had contact with someone from Mars. You know, whether you believe them or not. People.
I'm talking more about his photographs though. He's got a lot of photographs and a lot of them
Yeah.
for a telescope.
Yeah, and again, I think some of them to me look real from what I've actually analysed. But I go back and forwards to a lot of cases. I'll go back and let my mind settle on what I've found, and then I'll go back again and try and find out again a bit more. But I think, yeah, it probably is real. If you'd like to, yes or no.
The portals that you were talking about, are they there all the time?
Not what I know of. I think they're manifested to what
Oh right,
the,
so
the
people
craft
couldn't
of the
just
beings.
accidentally go through one.
Not what I've heard of, but that could go back to the Bermuda Triangle and things like that, where
Yeah.
again, and the Bermuda Triangle, Billy Meyer spoke about this, that was actually two suns that were in a line in another universe. They were in the wrong alignment, and it happened to correspond on the Earth,
Yeah.
which caused the Bermuda Triangle. And he said also that he was told by the Palladians that all the ships and aircraft that disappeared would come back again, but a future date.
Oh,
They'll
wow.
reappear. So again, that goes
That'd
back
be
to
weird.
the Spielberg movie where
Yeah.
you remember the beginning of Close
Yeah.
Encounters, where all the aircraft are all there, and the engines still work, and then the pilots appear.
Yeah.
But this is Billy, and I'm a true believer of Billy, what he does, and plus his evidence, his films, the vast amount that he's got on there. And there's not people that have gone over there, tried to, debunk it. They've had film producers that have gone and said, well, no, you can't fake this, it will cost you too much money. And you've got to remember this time when he was doing a lot of filming, he only had one arm. He'd lost an arm in an accident. So he was setting up the camera, so how was he going to do all the rest of it to go with it? So I advise anyone to look at his stuff, because always go on there and make your own mind up. Don't listen to what people tell you, what you think you want to know or hear.
It's Chris at the back.
I'm just going to ask you, you've got so much knowledge, what is your own personal ultimate take on all of this? Where do you think it's going to go, and why is there such a cover-up?
Yeah, cover up is the government. Basically, oil, petrol, gas, religion. Where do you want to stop? That's why they don't want people to know. But like I said, disclosure has already happened. It happened a long time ago. Look at the vast amount of images. I could show you an awful lot more. It's just the tip of the iceberg, and that's probably better. I could have shown you.
Do you think they will make contact soon now, with everything going on?
Definitely,
Will
yeah.
it reset?
Well, they are doing now
Yes,
with
I'm saying
certain
en
people.
masse.
En masse, that's down to the majority. They do say that they try and sway the majority of the public to an idea, and that's where they're slowly drip feeding you about disclosure and where the government are looking into it, especially the US. So again, it's that $1 million question, isn't it? My opinion, yeah, it's not going to be a White House lawn. Here we are, hello. It's going to be individuals, it's going to be groups like this. They're not interested in what the government, because the government always want to manipulate everything. They want to weaponize
So
everything.
do you think that's one of the reasons why they're putting 5G up everywhere? Because a lot of scientists are saying it is a weapon.
Yeah.
And everyone's thinking that weapon is going to be directed at us, and it probably will be. But could it also be that they know this is going to happen and they want to have a fight with them?
I think it's all part of the white hat, the black hats. People probably talk about that, you know, and the good, the bad, and they want things releasing and other people don't want it, especially the military. You know, for me and for my side, being ex-military, they ain't going to be coming out telling you. They don't want you to know. They've had 80 years to tell you, you know, why now? Why? Because they're having a hand behind their back. They're being forced. So watch this space. I think Trump's got a lot to do with disclosure, and he's just released a team that is looking into all this so-called stuff we've been looking into for years: UFOs, UAPs, 9/11, the assassination of Kennedy, and it's all coming out. It's all being, and that's how it's the only way it's going to go forward.
That's what I'm saying.
I think,
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated by the Travis Walton case. Have you looked into that?
Yeah, I know Travis, and I haven't got my last book with me, but I actually got hold of Mike Rogers, who's the driver of the team, who was in charge of the team. And I remember asking him, I said, I want to know how people got into ufology. I want to know, was it an experience, was it a sighting or something? And I said to Mike, you know, I want to know what you saw. And he said, you don't want to know, you need to contact Travis. That's who it was about. But it wasn't, it was about them all. They all had an experience. So he actually wrote, it's a shame I haven't got the book, because he did a really good piece for me about his experience, what he saw, down to, he said the craft they saw in the woods. I'm assuming everybody knows about Travis Walton in the case. He said the craft they saw, it looked like a brand new sports car. And then he said you could smell the electric in the air. You know, things you wouldn't even think to believe, you know, what was going on at the time. And then he really did it. And that's what I wanted with that. I wanted people to tell me how they got into it. But yeah, definitely Travis Walton.
Who do you think is, which species do you think is most likely to contact us?
I think it's going to be a federation. I think it's going to be all of them. They're all going to be into. And you say reptilians are bad and everything, but apparently there are good reptilians as well. Yin yang, the whole thing. That, you know.
Yeah.
So I believe it's going to be a federation, a bit like Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's going to come forward. They're all under the same umbrella. They're all going to be singing from the same song sheet. Peace, everything else related. You can't do this, you can't do that. But you got to remember, human beings were very warlike,
Yeah.
so they can't trust us to go out into space because we'll just cause a fight. It's true, you know, because it's proven on the Earth what's happening. We can't not do it. So we've got to all be on the same, otherwise you can't be part of the federation.
I think that's it, Dave. Well, I think you'll all agree. It was absolutely fascinating. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Great seeing you again as well. I'm David Young. David Hobbs did a little bit in the middle. I'm going to bring another David on now to do a little bit about Seppi. So it's the three Davids.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, some of you might know me on Facebook as David Jones. That's my pseudonym. My real name is David John. From the Seppi Agency. We're a power investigations agency. You mentioned C5 earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So we've done 2 open investigations into that. So we've done one in 2023, one summer 2024, and we intend to do 2 more this year. So if you don't know about the agency, please look for us on Facebook, Seppi, S-E-P-I, Seppi Agency. YouTube channel as well, we do videos too. But look on there, come subscribe, join the group, and then I can let you know when the next C5 event is happening. Okay? The last one was in Suffolk.
Just over the border.
Just over the border, literally border of Essex and Suffolk. We are going to try and do them in Essex this time if we can. The last time it cost 12 quid each, only because it's private land. We had to give the land some money, didn't we? And pay for insurance, all that good stuff. But we're going to try and find somewhere more local, where it doesn't cost anything.
Your back garden,
For my fake grass, yeah. But yeah, if anyone's interested in trying CE5 for the first time, now, disclaimer, we are not a CE5 organisation. We're a parent investigations organisation. To us, CE5 is an open investigation. Did I say investigation quite a lot there?
yeah.
You did.
So to us, it's, you know, it's research. But for you guys, it's an opportunity to come and have a go and experience it. We'll try and get that guy back again, that really experienced guy.
Yeah, okay.
He's done it all over the world. He's really experienced. We'll try and get him back on board, and he'll take us through it again that day. So come and find Steppy Agency, and and I'll keep you posted on the next dates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.
Cheers. Thank you, David.
That's the end of the evening.
And
Don't
I'd like
forget-
to give you a big thank you, because that's one of the best talks I've seen in this hall the last chance to get your bits and pieces should you want to. And then after that, we've got to go before the caretaker gets been strangled.
And don't forget, next time,